Hello guys, Maxim is here, and today I'm with a video where I am going to talk about two things which will be definitely very helpful in building up your integration solutions in Azure, and will also help you to build up a more efficient deployment of your solution and to make use of your Azure resources more efficiently. So the first thing today is getting access to Key Vault so that you are able to use the Key Vault in your Logic app workflow. And access to the Key Vault, I have a Key Vault created, which I will use in my demonstration today. And in particular, my demo will be using Vault Access Policy. So this is a particular scenario where Logic app will get access to the Key Vault with use of access policies. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is use of Bicep instructions, and in particular use of array parameters for Bicep instructions, which will help you make more efficient application of instructions to multiple resources. So for instance, if you have multiple logic apps which need to get access to the same key vault, you use array parameters so that every logic app in the array will get the same level of permissions to the key vault with use of only one instance of the Bicep instruction. So let's get started. For this demo, I have created a group with a key vault and two logic apps. Then I will show you how a logic app is going to be set up in order to make the workflow get access to the key vault secret and use it in the workflow. So here I will choose an action of Azure Key Vault group, which gets a secret. The first screen shows you the fields which will be used to create a connection to the Key Vault. I will use the Key Vault name as the connection name here. Here I will be using the managed identity as an authentication type. And the vault name is the same. I will have to check the managed identity. I'll save this workflow. I go to the identity settings. So here, in order to use the managed identity in the authentication processes, you have to enable the system assigned. Well, you can use the user assigned managed identity, of course, but the simplest way is to use the system assigned identity enabled by this switch. So you set it to on, you save the change, and the managed identity is automatically created in the Active Directory for this logic app. I'll go back to the designer. So per now, the connection to the Key Vault is created, and we can check this by looking into list of connections. It was created with the Key Vault name. And now here in the name of secret, this is the field where I have to specify the name of the secret to be used. By clicking on this list, I expect to get the list of secrets stored in the given key vault. But instead, as you see, I get the error message, which says that the action couldn't retrieve values and the error code was forbidden, which means that this logic app doesn't have permission to fetch secrets from the key vault. And the reason to this is that I have to assign the access permission for the logic app to the key vault, which is done by creating the access policy. If I go to the key vault and then go to access policies, there is only one access policy created for me personally, so that I can manage secrets, but nothing else. And I'll have to use the Bicep instructions to assign the access policy for the logic apps, because it will be a part of the solution deployment, and you should implement it as an ARM template or a Bicep file, Bicep instructions, to grant these permissions to the Azure resources which need to have it. So I switch to the Visual Studio Code, where I have prepared a Bicep file with some instructions setting up the key vault so that it gets the access policies for the required logic apps. First of all, the file has the parameters section. In the parameters, I have defined the parameter for the key vault name, the resource group name, and the logic app names, which is of array type. And this will help me to run the code, the Bicep instructions, for unlimited number of logic apps. So it may be so that multiple logic apps in your solution will need to have access to the key vault. And with this code, you'll be able to give these permissions to all your logic apps with calling just one module. I will show you how it will be done. Next, which is of interest, is the definition of the permission itself. And here you can see that I give, get, and list access to secrets of the key vault, and only to secrets. Next, I get an instance of the existing key vault, which will be used further in the file as a parent to the key vault access policy. So the main part is the definition of the key vault access policy, and I will run addition of this policy. Make a note of it that I don't define the access policies from scratch. Add a new one to the existing policies. So it will not destroy the existing policy definition. It will just add a new one. And the interesting part in here is that I use the for loop, which is the Bicep language construct. And here I take the parameter logic app names and use each element of this array in iterations, and define the access policy, which requires specification of the tenant ID, object ID, and the object ID is the principal ID. The principal ID is the managed identity defined for the logic app. And the last one is the permission, which is variable defined in this file as I showed earlier. So it's pretty concise and pretty simple, and I like that I will not need to run several times the same code again and again for each logic app, but I just send the list of logic app names to this file, And this list will be handled so that the access policy will get created per each logic app. I have created the Bicep parameter file, which uses the core file, core definition file, and then I define the key vault name, the resource group name, and you can see that this parameter logic app names is array of strings, where each string is the logic app name. And by the way, don't forget to create the Bicep configuration file, because use of Bicep parameter file requires enabling experimental feature param files. So you will, if you don't have the config file created and the parameter files feature enabled, you will get an error which looks like this. Using a Bicep parameters file requires enabling experimental feature params files. So just remember that the configuration file for Bicep is required. Next, I will switch back to the key vault in Azure quickly, just to show you that the list of access policies contains only one element for myself. Then I go to the Visual Studio again, and I'm gonna run an Azure command, which will execute Bicep file along with parameters. Let's see for the results. Okay, the execution is completed, and then when we switch to the Azure again, and I refresh the policies list, we'll find new policies created for the first logic app and the second logic app. To check that it works, I need to go to the designer of the logic app, and unfortunately I will not be able to get the list again, so I delete this action and I need to recreate it. Get secret. The connection is reused. The earlier created connection is reused. We may find it here. If I click here, the loading gives me the secret, the only secret existing in the key vault. If you have more secrets, you will find all them here in the list. I choose this secret, and then I make sure that the value is returned. And if I run my logic app, we see that the execution is succeeded. It's the last one. This is the secret fetched from the key vault. And if I take the second logic app and open it in the designer, it works just the same. And the secret is returned by the logic app. So I showed you that the logic app can easily use access to the key vault in the workflow. And of course, you have to give access for the logic app to the key vault, and it's easily done with access policies. And the next thing is giving this policy with use of the Bicep instructions. This code will, of course, be used in your deployment code, in your deployment pipeline, or you run this Bicep code manually with use of the Azure CLI. But anyway, this will be a part of the entire deployment logic. So in addition to creation of your logic apps with the use of Bicep, you will have this logic which gives access for the logic apps to the key vault. This is all I wanted to show you today. Stay subscribed to my channel. See you next time. Goodbye.